Hello and welcome to Walpole United WFC. Hello and welcome to Walpole United with me, John Foster, MUFC. John's got a smile on his face, Ellie's smiling, Barry just there, just looking at the statistics, I would have thought. Lots to get into. We want to talk a little bit about a lot of stuff, but the Devs is going to be the most important subject for the first half an hour or so. An amazing achievement for our academy team. I want to get into it, but YouTube's working, just double checking that. Every now and again, we do talk about the men's team on this channel when something massive happens, the same way as when something massive happens on the women's team, we'll go onto the main account and talk about it there. So, John, if you could just kind of talk about the breaking news regarding the men's team. If you're living under a rock and don't know what's happening, just spend just a couple of minutes talking about that, and then we'll get onto the women's team and the academy. But it's only right as the Man United channel that we talk a little bit about this.
Yeah, well, I was just on the live stream on the men's channel with the news was confirmed by Fabrizio Romano this afternoon. Here we go. We're just waiting for the official announcement from the clubs that Ten Hag will be confirmed as manager. And I've been an advocate for a good number of months now. I've been paying close attention to the Ajax. We'll talk about the youth development. There's something we covered on both channels and what it's done at Ajax in terms of how they produce academy products, introduce them to the first and that, and obviously both men and women's team have good academy products. So you might see over the next couple of years, you might see some of these filter through. But as for men's team, I think Ten Hag's appointment is good in terms of going forwards. Obviously, we need to be patient. It's going to take a long time to rebuild from where we are at the moment. And so I don't personally expect much next couple of years. I just want to see us get an ambition to see how we'll develop play-wise, see a style of play which is good to watch, see us buy players and also sell players that don't fit the style. And I think if we do back him, I can potentially see us getting back to the top within maybe 3 to 5 years potentially, but that can only happen if he's back. And so we gotta be patient. But for me, it is a step in the right direction.
Well, yeah, just one last question on that before we do move on to the women's team. What's the fan base saying, John? Are they happy with this appointment on the men's team? Fans?
Yeah, we're 100%. Well, not 100%, but the vast majority. I think a good few weeks ago, Gary Neville put a poll up on Twitter, like, do you want Pochettino or do you want Ten Hag? And from a good few thousand votes, maybe 10,000 votes or something, over 80% of people said they wanted Ten Hag to manage. Obviously, some people didn't want Pochettino, some other like Enrique, if it was possible, that I think. But I think based on the managers that are available, the vast majority of United fans will think this is a very good appointment.
Yeah. Definitely. I think there's a few people in the comments also agreeing with it, and from the bit of research that I've done, it does come across like a very good fit for United. So let's hope that that's the case. And I also read or heard of somebody, I don't know if it was on this channel or if it was speaking behind the scenes, that I can't remember who mentioned it. It might have even been one of you guys. That Ten Hag has already mentioned the women's team before we even signed. It wasn't Man United women's team; it was actually Arsenal's women's team. Mentioned some of those players. So the fact that he even watches women's football and that kind of stuff can only be a positive, because we know how strong Ollie, felt about our women's team and still does for obvious reasons. It's great to see. So it's good to have that connection there. We are going to move on, but it was nice just to hear that breaking news. Thank you there, John. I know you've been busy across both accounts.
Well, I shout out to anyone who hasn't watched it yet. We did discuss potential incomings now. sporting it. So if you do want to give it a watch, if you haven't watched already, then you can obviously be on the men's channels, after this stream now.
Awesome. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, let's just say hello to Barry as well. Are you okay, Barry?
Not too bad at all. Thank you very much, sir. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. I know the second part of the show, we're going to come to your topic. So after we speak about the devs of the academy, we're going to come to that. So I think everyone can look forward to hearing how Barry's going to link in Easter with Man United women's team. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Only Barry could come up with this. Or even maybe John could have come up with it thinking about it. I think that's how John's ended up on the show. And Ellie, welcome back to the show. How are you doing, mate?
Welcome. I'm doing good. Thank you for having me back on.
Absolutely. Well, you was at the game yesterday, so obviously I want to talk to you a little bit first. First of all, just what were your thoughts on the actual match day itself? So not so much about the game, but there's quite a few fans in attendance. It was a massive game. Obviously, Man United knew with their far superior goal average that a win would see them top that league, and that's exactly what we've got. What did you think the actual day was like, Ellie?
It was fantastic. Obviously, it was my first ever game, and I thought the attendance was actually quite good. But some of Everton fans were there as well, and I think Ollie was there as well. Supporting Solskjaer, and I thought where it was, obviously it's in the park, but I thought where it was actually quite good yesterday.
Okay.
It was good. It was like like the women's game that we normally go to. It was like just like that slightly. I thought there was loads of cheering.
Yeah.
Like what they deserved really, all of them. There was lots of cheering. There was obviously our flags went up. Our flags went up, 2 of them, so that was good. And it was just good meeting everyone there. To be honest, like Nat and everyone like that. So it was a good day all round. To be honest. Yeah.
I hope Natalie comes back on the channel soon, and she can obviously give her views on it because she's followed the devs for a long time. So she's watched them grow up and now obviously win trophies as well, which is absolutely brilliant. Yeah. And it's funny that you should mention that about the being cheering, because sometimes at the development games there's not that much cheering. I mean, there's not an overly amount of cheering in the WSL. There has been last 3 or 4 years, but a lot of it's just clapping. Whereas now, that cheering was there when we saw it at the Devs final that I went to at St George's Park where we won. So it's a good thing to pick up there.
And I thought it was good how at the women's games we sometimes have our conflict with the referees and everything. Well, it was there yesterday as well, so that was a good thing.
Really, that's interesting. Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. All age groups deserve a good referee. No matter what age group you are or what gender you are or anything, you need that good referee, don't you, just to make it a fair game. Yeah. Stick with yourself then, Ellie. The player on the thumbnail is obviously Maria Edwards. We followed her since the end of the championship season. Myself personally, my first memory of her was when she was played in pre-season in Norway, got on the pitch, almost scored. And ever since then, we've been thinking, okay, is she going to break into the first team? What does she need? She had a successful spell at Blackburn. I think she might have been like their player of the season that season, or something like that. Maybe something even bigger. We haven't seen too much of her this season, and this is something that I've held my hands up. I made a mistake. I thought this was going to be her season to see her in the first team squad. We didn't have an abundance of options out wide, so I just thought, this is Maria's chance to shine. She has shone this season, but again, at academy level, she's been in and around the senior team more, much like some of the other players as well, which is great. So, I'm not surprised that Maria's ended the season the way that she started the season. But, Ellie, just what are your thoughts on her masterclass performance?
Well, I thought she was absolutely brilliant yesterday. She got a hat trick. Do you know what? She could have got even another one, but it was ruled offside as well. So, me and Nat are still thinking that was even offside and the rest of them, because that did look onside that. But I honestly, she was so good in the attack and breaking them down, making sure they don't score as well. But that goal by her, that banger that went right in, that was it for me. That she just amazed me yesterday all game.
Yeah,
She
absolutely.
was the one I had my eyes on our game.
Yeah,
She was good.
definitely. Yeah. Well, we'll continue to talk about Maria first before we move on to some of the other players. Barry, obviously, as a United fan, that's probably one player that you've heard a bit about in recent seasons. I appreciate Carla Solskjaer's goal ratio has definitely put her on the map this season as well, rightly so. But the final league game of the season, if you don't include a playoff, to score a hat trick and sign off in that shape, in that way, it's great to see, isn't it, Barry?
Oh, absolutely. It's an amazing way to go and end the season, as you say. Getting a hat trick at any point is really good, but to get one in really what was quite a pressure game, to be honest with you, it's one of those games that they knew they had to win. If they didn't win it, they weren't going to win the league. They just, from what I'm hearing, seem to show the right mentality, seem to show the right way in which you attack a match. And I think when you've got someone, I mean, we were having this discussion last week in terms of goals for the senior side. This is what I was talking about. When you've got somebody in that team who is going to be as good as she is, then that's just incredibly helpful. I know you've been waiting for it. So, she's finished as the top goal scorer for the entirety of the league. Can I just point out, in a brief moment here, that the FA full-time website needs the people that are putting the results in to actually care, I think. And they need to sort out this algorithm that they've got, because, I noticed one of the journalists on Twitter the other day saying, they typed something into Google feeling absolutely convinced they were going to be able to get the stats for one of the players, and they just couldn't. And this is such an easy part of the game. We're not talking about expected goals or any of that sort of stuff that people throw out all the time. We're talking about simple things like how many times have you scored a goal, all the things that would get put into a referee's book. And the reason why I'm moaning about it is because I've sat here looking at the full-time website for the last hour. And to be honest with you, I don't know. It would be impossible to draw any decent stats other than the fact that when you look at it, it tells you that in summary, she's played 11 games and scored 21 goals. So you think, well, I know what I'll do. I'll have a look and see what that is in the league only. And when you look at the league only, well, she hasn't had any appearances in the league whatsoever, and nor has she scored any goals. So you think, well, that can't be right. She goes to the cup only one, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, she scored a few in there. It's mental that we can't get to a point where anything beyond the WSL and the Championship really seems to have any decent type of statistics. However, with a bit of digging, I think what I'm about to say is going to be factually correct. So either way, as a whole, she comes out of it top scorer. 29 goals is what I managed to pull out. It could be more, could be less, who knows. You need the matrix for that, I think. But from the seeming, from what I can get, 29 out of 19, which I think is amazing, as a goal ratio. To help out, Tottenham Hotspur's Williams is the second best there, and she's got 24 out of 22. So it's less games, more goals. I think when you look at that, it just goes to show what Maria Edwards is like to me. That is someone who 100% is going to have a future in the women's game, and someone who I'm excited to see a lot more of, I think, going into the next few seasons, because you can get someone like that who's going to guarantee you goals. That's what we want. That's what we need. That's the one thing that we've been chatting about for the last 7 days.
Yeah. Good information there. And I want to carry this conversation on, so I will get back to the match shortly. But, John, as someone who's new to women's game this season, you've managed to learn so much about the senior team so quickly. The information is there. Obviously you have conversations with other fans as well, which is great. But Barry's made a good point there. If you want to learn about your academy team, which is only one level down from the senior team, Barry's right. It's so hard to find that information, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. Obviously, like you said, I've been following the women's team, and I have been identifying some of the results of the Devils team. You just look at the stats, like they've played 20 games, they've won the league, and they have a goal difference of plus 68 in 20 games. It's just insane. And Villa in second place, their goal difference was plus 35. Ours is almost double what theirs is, and you just look at some of the results, like beating Liverpool 10-1, 5-0, and 8-0, beating City 6-1. Like these girls, and I've won the double. Obviously, I was at the academy final at St George's Park with yourself. I think it was last month, was it? I can't remember now. But again, that we won that game 4-1. It's just like, and I think it's great to see that these girls, they're absolutely brilliant. And I used the line before the stream. I was like, the men had class of 92, perhaps the women's now have the class of 22, don't they? With they're playing that. But I think it's fair to say that I think the girls are too good for the level that they're playing at. I think that's a fair assessment. I think you do need to start making a judgment whether these players are good enough to be brought into the first team and that, because obviously I don't have much knowledge about women's game academy wise, but I know in the men's case, like there's a big gap between the under 23s and the men's first team, and it does take time. You have to build up physically and that kind of thing. The men's game, obviously, my knowledge is limited in the women's game, but I'd expect it might be similar in the women's game potentially. So what you need to assess now with all these girls who are obviously talented, you mentioned, Maria Edwards, we got Kana Solskjaer, we got Becky May, those kind of players. You have to make a judgment whether they are good enough, and you've got to try and look at integrating them into the first team next season. Like we mentioned, like we could have boosted the goal difference in the first team this season. That might eventually cost us the top three. I'm not saying Marie Edwards is ready now, but is she potentially a player who will bang in the goals for the first team in 2 to 3 years potentially? You've also got to assess, will they ever make it, or do you got to consider selling them on to, like a team lower in the Championship, say like a Leicester or a Birmingham or someone, or possibly better like a Villa or something. You've got to start trying to make an assessment what level these girls are potentially at, and you've got to make smart moves. I think you should be looking to try it and integrate maybe 2 to 3 of these potentially next year. Not saying starting them all the time, but integrating them. Can you, obviously, if we don't play in the Champions League next season, we'll win the Conti Cup. Can you integrate them into that potentially? So that's another thing you got to factor in. So I do think that you got to be steady. You can't rush them in, but you do need to start making a judgment which ones are good enough to make the step up, and which ones potentially you might think, well, you're too good for this level, but maybe not right for United, so maybe give them to, like a lower team in the league potentially. So that's something you got to make a judgment on over the summer and over the next year also.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of agreement in the comments on that, John, and I will come back to it. But Barry, I know you wanted to make another quick point as well.
Yeah, which was about the league. So John was talking about that as well, and he's come out with the absolute banger of the fact that we've got a goal difference of plus 68. I even thought I'd look into that. I'm like, well, I wonder if we're better at home or if we're away. Well, that was stupid, wasn't it, Barry? Why on earth did I try and look at that? See if you can get your... See, I don't know how good you lot are at maths. This is something that I do for a living. So let's just see if we can do this, right? They've played 20 games in total. That's what the league tells us. When you look at their home form, they've won 4, lost 2. Their away form, won 1, drawn 1, lost 1. Last time I checked, that adds up to 12. But when you look at their overall, they've won 16, drawn 1, lost 3. So... how are you meant to work? How are you supposed to get any quality reporting, any quality anything, if you can't even be bothered to put the results on properly? But judging by what it says, we're looking at, it is a plus 68 goal difference with 88 goals scored. That's out of 20 games. And I think what John says there that's so true is like, that's just better than anybody else by a distance. Villa have scored 28 less. Leicester, who were third, were 46 less. It's like, that's mad. Everton finished fourth, scoring 29, and the two of the teams below them scored 39 and 37. So, it's a really interesting sort of league, and I actually think that moving the conversation on a bit, John's absolutely right. When you think about the men's game, quite often you think for the youth they're going to play in the League Cup, basically. That's when you are most expecting to see youngsters being blooded and being given a chance. And I suppose really the Conti Cup would potentially be the only place where you're looking at playing the girls now. But that to me would be the interesting thing. Whereabouts are you supposed to give these players this opportunity to go and play again? I mean, our second top scorer was Eleanor Ashton. She scored 21 out of 14, from what we can tell. Solskjaer 15 out of 19. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I know Solskjaer played in the game against Bridgewater. I don't recall seeing Edwards or Ashton.
Yeah.
Why? Why would you not? I mean, if Edwards is as good as we're seeing here, how was she not given, the nods?
She has had an injury at some point. I don't know I think she might not have been 100% for that. However, there was rumours just before that game. I think the game before that one that they got up on the coach, and obviously that wasn't the case either. So I think it's just been there or thereabouts. But you're absolutely right, Barry. They haven't.
So it would be good to see, like I say, where it is they're supposed to get these chances to step up and give it a go. You can't throw them in the middle of the WSL season without having some form of foundation, because that's setting them up to fail. But I wanted to ask Ellie, because obviously she was there. Eleanor Ashton, we don't know much about her. She came on after 68 minutes. So was there much to see from her? Was there anything to write home about that you saw?
Yeah, she did some good, and in the on the side of the box, she did some good deliveries, to Carrie and Maria. She did some good ones outside inside the box, but I think they should have brought her on for in first half as well, because why not? I just wanted to see a bit more of her. That's what I thought. Wanted to see more of her. And
so where? Boys, help us out. Where do we play these girls?
Yeah.
Where's our breeding ground for our young talent? Where do we get them to go? Because we know where it is in the men's game. Everyone knows where he likes. Where's it going to be for these girls? Where are we going to get that chance, give a senior opportunity?
We've been saying it for a lot, haven't we? I think the fact that he goes from under 21s straight to seniors is a massive jump. And I don't want to keep on going over this because we have got over it on multiple shows, but does that structure need to change? I'm hearing that could be the case going forward. Do they need like an under 23s level instead and get them through that way so they can get used to that step up? That's not necessarily a bad thing, at least regarding this topic at least. Now we have seen Maria out on loan, like I say, at Blackburn. Mark Stanyard's in the comments. He was at the game yesterday, a Villa fan, obviously follows United as well. We'll have to see him this Sunday. I've kept that clear. Everyone's laughing on screen. If you don't know, sorry, Mark, they've outed you here by laughing. It does support both clubs, I guess.
He would have been the only person in that place happy, whatever the result was.
Yeah. He'll be wearing a half and half on Sunday.
Yeah, that's what we said to him yesterday, actually.
Yeah, sorry, Mark.
It's lucky he got out the ground.
It's middle of the road. Which side do you want to be on?
Well, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be in the Villa singing section, probably singing United songs, but we'll go from there. But now I'm looking forward to seeing him on Sunday, Mark, at the senior team. But yeah, someone mentioned in a comment, it might have been Lansell saying, is Aston Villa the way forward? I want to bring Ellie in on this because we have seen Maria out on loan, but it was a championship club. For me, I think now we need to be seeing more of her, see how good she's actually going to be at the WSL. I think that's the kind of level now. If she can't be at a WSL, even if it's the lower end, I'm not expecting her to rip up trees and take us from fourth to third, or expecting Maria to win us titles. I'm not saying that, but we do not need to see her now. She's at that progression stage where she needs to be playing in the WSL week in, week out, and really challenging herself against, proper experienced WSL players, otherwise she's never going to get into United. So, Ellie, what's your kind of thought on that? Would you kind of see her at Aston Villa out on loan, or would you want to see her come straight to United and bring her on as a substitute, or bring her on in the Conti Cup? How would you kind of manage her now?
Well, I'd say Aston Villa, because with us, it's hard to get the youngsters on. We can all agree on that because of how talented they are. So, like, Fuza or like Tooney or something, you can't bring one of them on for Tooney, because then Tooney will argue saying, oh, like, she's got better stability and all that than Maria. So then I said yesterday, maybe put in Aston Villa, because then she will get more game time for them. Because if she came straight up to us now, to the senior team, I don't think she'll get that game time. She'll be just on the bench all the time.
Yeah.
And that's not what we want for her, really. I said I just wanted to shine somewhere where I know that she'll have game time, rather than with us, there'll be players in front of her, like what we've got now. So that's why I'm arguing. Like, she'd be better at a lower team now, out on loan. So either Aston Villa, I'd say Birmingham. Birmingham are going down next season, aren't they? Let's not say that. So,
to all the Birmingham fans, we've just cheered Mark Stanyard up being a Villa fan, so we've just cheered him back up again. Carry on, Ellie.
Yeah, so either Aston Villa or even Brighton, maybe. Aston Villa, Brighton, but yeah, like I said, I'd love her at our senior team, but I just don't think she'll have that chance to play as much as she does for the academy, because we've got other players that still need the chance, that are still on the bench, like Fuzo and all that. So she can't really come on for. I just don't see her coming on for. But maybe the Conti Cup games, I've always said bring our academy players into them. Because let them have at least some minutes on the pitch. Like Solskjaer did at Bridgewater. Yeah. Maybe Marie should have gone there, but obviously you just said she was injured, so.
I don't know if she definitely was, but I think there was something going on at that time where I was expecting both of them to play.
Yeah.
Before that, and neither of them. I think one of them might have travelled, but didn't get on the pitch. But yeah, I thoroughly agree with you, Ellie. I really do. I'm going to read out some of the names who started and contributed into the game. So if you didn't know who's played or whatever, I'm just going to read out a load of names, and then Ellie, I'm just going to come back to you and just say who else stood out for you. We've got Carrie Jones in the comments as well. Obviously, that's more of a household name because she's played in the senior team a bit more often. But I was going to read out, so obviously, Carrie Jones, Rebecca May had a great Devs Cup final. Me and John was there for that one. Neve Murphy, Polly Watson, Saf in goal, obviously Maria Edwards, Carla Solskjaer, Emma Taylor, Ella Kinser, Jessica Simpson, Chloe Williams, Eleanor Ashton, and I think there's one unused sub, and I can't remember who it could be. Would it be? I can't think. Have a look on the website, Barry. I'm sure there's an unused sub, and I can't remember her name. But any of those names kind of jump out at you?
Well, the obviously one is Carrie Jones. She was outstanding for them yesterday. Some of the skills she did, she literally went right through them all. Like 4 tackles she did, she actually nearly scored, but it
Megan Salfield, I remembered. Sorry, El. Megan Salfield, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Sorry, El.
So, yeah, Carrie Jones stood out to me so much yesterday. Even a Shimpa came flying off halfway through the game. But, yeah, she just ripped through all the defenders yesterday. But, wow. Yeah, she literally had a banger, not halfway line, but near the goal. And it banged off the post. She was just unreal yesterday, I thought. See, that's something I'd love to see more of her in our senior games. I really, really would.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that Carrie Jones has been the one this season to actually break through. Obviously, like we mentioned at the start of the season, it was and at the start of the show, it was always going to be Maria Edwards, the one that was going to be looking at first because she was the one that we've been speaking about for the last couple of seasons. Carrie Jones, I think it might have even been pre-season when we went up to Scotland and watched her against Rangers. I'm sure she was on the pitch then, and she's really took it, in a stride. And I think potentially all this being surrounded by the senior team has made her obviously a lot better, as you'd hope, as you'd expect. So to hear that she played really well in the Devs, obviously it is great to see, isn't it? Yeah. Barry, do you want to just come in on this before we go around the table one more time? We'll start off with Carrie Jones and maybe any other player that has took your eye this season on the development side, and what's the kind of expectations from them going forward?
Well, I think Carrie Jones, we spoke about this last week with our international roundup, and she's been amazing. I mean, Lanzel just brought it up just then about the game against France, and she did terrify the French defenders. She was really attacking them and showing, everything that you want to see really from your front line. She won free kick, she was in and around the box, she was shooting. So she had all of those bits and pieces that you want from a forward. So listen, I think it comes down to exactly what you've all just been talking to. It's about, we've got to remember at their age, we're talking about education, we're talking about learning. And as with anything, learning needs to be done in a safe environment where you've got the opportunity to fail and not be the end of the world. And I think that's what the Academy Reserve League does for you. But equally, you also need the opportunity to go out there and learn on the job to find out how you can do it. And I agree with these ideas of loans. They are, I think, a really good way to do it. And I'm with Ellie. I would put them down to people who aren't necessarily doing so well. I see there's people there that are petrified that if we give them to Aston Villa, all of a sudden, they're going to jump up and be challenging Man City for third, and the world will all be over. But you know what? If they do, great, because they belong to us. That's the whole point. They're contracted to us. So, it swings and roundabouts really. But yeah, definitely they need that. And I think, Carrie's one of those who's shown through the internationals that she's capable of stepping up and doing that. So, yeah, 100% I want to see that. With regards to other people that haven't necessarily been mentioned, Alyssa Ahern, she's done quite well as well. She's scored quite a few goals this season. 9 is what I got there.
John, we were just talking before the game. Sorry, Barry, but you just came to my mind that was the player that was discussing before the show started, wasn't it? At the Devs final, and we was impressed with her as well. But yeah, sorry, Barry.
That's all right. So yeah, she would be my other one potentially who's worth keeping an eye on as time goes through. Rebecca May's been mentioned a lot. Poppy Lawson, and Safia Middleton Patel. She's great for so many reasons. I see the Indian contingent on Twitter delighted because there's some representation for them. That's firsts in there, and I think that's amazing. Someone who we've got Sophie Bagley, but is Safia going to be in a situation where she could be the next Mary Earps?
Well, let me throw that out to you, Barry. I mean, we've got 4 goalkeepers already. Rambo and Bentley have been with us a very long time now. Obviously, the fans are very think highly of them, of course, because they've been with us. And not many of the players now have been here since 2018. Those players, we've took to them kindly, but they're both out on loan at the moment. Bagley is, in my opinion, a level ahead of those at the moment, mainly due to experience. Should we be looking at losing 2 goalkeepers, knowing full well the staff can be a third choice goalkeeper?
I always get confused as to why we've got so many in any football team, really. Why you would have so many.
Yeah,
it's crazy. I mean, they were talking about it in the men's team about getting Sam Johnson. I'm like, we've already got Tom Heaton and Lee Grant. I mean, these are people who shouldn't be picking up paychecks for Manchester United Football Club. It's crazy. I think it's a similar sort of situation with the girls. You need a goalie, you need a backup goalie, and then if that doesn't work, you use a youth goalie. The point of having a third goalie, I think, is madness. It doesn't show a huge amount of confidence in your youth system. So personally, I would stick with Earps and Bagley. I think, Emily, to be fair, she's been out on loan, and have we really missed her would be the question. So I think for her, it might be better if she was shipped off. And then, Safia's got that opportunity to be the number 3. So if something did happen to her, we've got, a youngster ready to come in. To me, that's just how it should work. You want to be able to give those youth a chance, and that's the best way. So, personally, I would trim it up.
Mm-hmm. John, just your final thoughts on the academy. Then obviously a fantastic season. You've seen the league table. You've mentioned the goal average and everything there. Winning a trophy as well. And they beat off some good competition there in Aston Villa, and Chelsea's obviously going to be a bit tougher. And it's a 2-legged affair. I think it's on the 20th and the 27th, home and away, which is interesting in itself. Away goals count. But just what's your thoughts, John, just on the academy team, and how are we going to get the best out of them going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've obviously got the academy to be very proud of. Obviously, they've gone above and beyond this season. Obviously, it's the same with on the men's side. Both our respective youth academies looking very strong. Obviously, we've won the Academy Cup, the devs obviously win the Youth Cup final for the men's as well. I think it illustrates that Manchester United, we've always prided ourselves on having very good academies and the youth teams and that kind of thing, and it's beginning to show now that obviously the women's team is only young. It's only 4 years old, isn't it? So it's now beginning to build something behind the scenes. I mean, you look at, I think City finishing 6th place. I think Chelsea were about 7th, I think, or Liverpool, I can't remember. But clearly you can see that even though they're ahead of us in league terms with their respective squads in the first team, but we've got a better academy than them, and that's something we can be proud of. And we've always prided ourselves not just on integrating people into the first team, but also developing footballers in successes elsewhere as well. I think it's something we can be very proud of, and this is why I think we're getting it right in terms of with the women's team, you can see the production line, and that we are beginning to look like a Manchester United team, and that. So hopefully it'll come to fruition. I would like to potentially see a few of these players integrated in the first team. I think probably ideally if they're this good, really, you ought to be integrating a few. Obviously, I don't know. Maria Edwards, Carla Solskjaer, those kind of players. I don't know which ones will make it, but it'd be good to see some make it. And even if ones that don't make it, hopefully there'll be successes elsewhere. But I think it's something we can be very proud of, and hopefully we will continue to develop strong youth teams going forwards. And hopefully, maybe in 2 to 3 years, maybe it could be the basis for a foundation for potentially the first team, potentially winning stuff, hopefully with a bit of luck.
Stuart's got a comment, and I just left this one on screen because Hannah Hampton's a player that the fan base was torn between last season, because some of us wanted Bagley, some of us wanted Hampton, and obviously we ended up with Bagley. Not a bad thing. She's hardly done anything wrong. She's hardly playing, but she's hardly done anything wrong this season. So, but it's funny you should mention that one, Stuart, because we was all over that last summer. And just this one here by Sporty Chatterbox. Can you see Rambo or Fan coming back and Sophie leaving for regular first team starts? I don't know, Barry. I don't know. I mean, as long as she's happy fighting Mary, because it's going to be, Mary's had a fantastic season. Do you want to come in on that one, Barry, before we move on?
Yeah, I don't necessarily see her going anywhere at the moment. I'll admit that when I was responding to that, I thought you were talking about Safia, but Bagley. Potentially she could, but I don't think so. I think Mark will probably do everything he can to keep them together. And I think she gets a lot of love from us. She was, the cup goalkeeper. So I'd be, especially if we get Champions League, I don't see her going anywhere at
all. Awesome, yeah. Ellie, the final word with yourself then regarding the academy team. Obviously what you saw yesterday, how would you kind of sum it up?
I think some of them are ready, like, to be with us, our senior women. But then we always say, like, they'll never get a chance because some of ours are above them. But I was said it was my first game yesterday, and I couldn't take my eyes off them. I loved every minute of it. It's like watching our players. Literally, like watching a game of our players. That's how experienced they are. They're so experienced, and Carrie Jones for me stood out for me, and then so did Maria. But obviously, Carrie Jones does play for us sometimes as well. So I'd love to see her more on the pitch, but I think loan's the best option for them both now. I think anyway.
Excellent, yeah. Okay, so it's an amazing achievement, and I'll just have a look, just do a little bit of research. You can get some information out there, as Barry did mention earlier, and rightly so. There's not enough, we're Man United, and I'm not being big-headed here, but we're a WSL team who's pushing for Champions League, and it's so hard to get information on that academy, and I understand it, the age group and all this kind of stuff. I do get it, and but I do agree with people in the comments. We do need to do better as a club or as a governing body to at least get some accuracy there more than anything. Let's just start off with accuracy first and then build the statistics up from there. Barry, just you messaged me a couple of 3 days ago, I think it was, with a great topic to kind of end tonight. How are you going to link it in? How are you going to link in being on a Man United women's show to the Easter period, Barry?
Oh, that's a nice bus you throw me under there. Okay, so I thought it's Easter, and Easter is obviously a time when the world celebrates the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Some might say the greatest comeback of all time. So I wondered, what would be the Manchester United women's greatest comeback of all time? So yeah, what could it be? What could it be? And I'm going to let you guys think about the ones in the past. I was looking at this season, and there's sort of been a few. We had City in the Conti Cup, we were 1-0 down, then Fuso and Battier scored, so that was a good comeback. Again in the Conti Cup, a few weeks later, we had Leicester. And we went behind both times to them, but Russo and Zellum for a 2-2 game there. And even, of course, the Old Trafford one against Everton, 1-0 down, and we managed to come back. Obviously, again, Russo and Zellum scoring the goals. I feel like this season, if anything, the other teams have had better comebacks against us, because it's been, we've mentioned it many times already, Spurs, Everton, West Ham, where we've been ahead, and they've come back against us. But for me, this season, it's got to be Everton at Old Trafford. That's the comeback of the season. To go 1-0 down with all that pressure of knowing you're at home and that actually, you could go away and lose this, and then all of a sudden all that momentum you've built up is just dissipated. To come back as we did with those goals, I think would be my choice this season for the Easter Award for Manchester United. So over to you guys now. What do you think?
Well, whilst everyone's thinking and everyone's getting in the comments trying to think of their answer as well, just come to yourself, John. I mean, it's such a big thing in football and a big thing in Man United as well in our history. Having some good comebacks. Do you think our players are well equipped for coming back? Because I'll be honest, I've done these shows now for 18 months, and we do get comments in the comments. We read us on Twitter, and we do these podcasts, and sometimes I do think as a team they have a comeback fight. The heads kind of drop a little bit, and it kind of rocks them a little bit. And I'm not just basing that on this season. I'm basing it on previous seasons as well. And there's nothing better than a good comeback, and I'm going to give mine after you guys have give yours as well. What are your thoughts on that? Is that something that we can improve on?
Yeah, I think that's definitely something you got to improve on, because if you want to be a successful team, you've got to have the ability to come back when you lose, and we know we're renowned for it. When comes to men's game, we're renowned for the great comebacks, aren't we, under Fergie in particular? But it's like when you think about the comebacks, like Barry said, we've lost goals late rather than scoring goals late to win crucial points. We've actually lost points through conceding goals, and it's happened way too often this season. If it happened a couple of times, you'd be like, that can happen, but it's happened like maybe 6 times in the league potentially, and this is something you've really got to improve on. You've got to have the ability to close out games firstly when you're winning, but also, as Barry said, the only league game which we won from behind the season was the Everton game at Old Trafford, and we did show great character in that game to come back and win that game, but you do have to. This is where we'll have to improve in the future, particularly next season. This is Skinner's test, really, next season when you're winning, particularly against the big teams. Like the other semi-comeback we did was the derby in October when we were 1-0 down until 70 minutes. And then we went 2-1 up, and the atmosphere just erupted, and we managed to do it. But then, unfortunately, we then conceded the equaliser in. So it's something you've got to get better at. And I think as soon as you get used to seeing how these games, like we've only won 2 games 1-0 all season. I think if memory serves me right, were we behind in the Durham game in the County Cup? If I remember rightly, I can't remember. No, I think we were behind in that, but it also shows that we haven't. I think it's City the only FA Cup game where we've actually scored the first goal and lost the game. I think also, if memory serves me right. So you're kind of like, the problem is we're not finishing teams off, but equally we haven't been behind that many times this season, particularly in the league. But we've got ahead in a lot of games, but we haven't held on. I think in future you have to learn to tough it out, like we did at Old Trafford in difficult circumstances. It was a shock conceding the first 5 minutes, and it took us time to get used to it. But eventually, where Brito's header goes back to 1-1, and then the second half we were much better. And you've got to get better at these. This is what separates us from your Chelsea, your Arsenals, and your Cities. When they're 1 goal up, they see that game out, and they're never out of it. Like if you're 1 goal behind going into the last 7 minutes, you're never out of it, and you've got to be better at that. And as soon as we learn to do that, and I feel eventually we will learn to do it, hopefully next season, then we'll start thinking about getting into the top 3 place. But I think that's one side of character you've got to show if you want to be successful.
Yeah, it's a good point, and this I'll let it comment on screen because it's really good. It's a bit of a twist on what Barry is asking for, but it's great. A good comeback, staying in contention for the Champions League spot despite that February schedule. 4 or 5, consecutive games against the top 3. That was a crazy kind of month. It's not something that you're used to seeing if you're a United fan, playing all those games so quickly together. Barry, let me throw that one back at you. I mean, what were your thoughts? What's your thoughts on that comment?
I mean, he's not wrong. I mean, is it a comeback as such? We're still in the same position.
Maybe if we continue to stay in top 3, maybe we could class as a comeback.
Yeah. In terms of the form returning, in that respect, absolutely. Listen, I think at the time he's talking about in February, we were playing Chelsea and City, were 2 of the big ones there. And I think the one that sticks out in my mind is the Chelsea one, because Chelsea went 2-0 up. Bilderberg pulled 1 back, and that was the moment. At that point, that's when we then should have been able to go on, get another goal, try and level the game up, and that's what champions would do. Instead, it was the other way around, and it was Chelsea, who were probably arguably the champions, who got the ball, and then the next goal, and 3-1 was it. Then nothing happened second half. And that was a key one. That was an opportunity for us to go out second half and really try and fight back, and we didn't. So, that one was a real shame. City in the FA Cup was atrocious. It's, it's 4-1, and we just didn't really seem to. We've never looked like properly coming back from, say, 2 goals. When we're 1 goal down, we've got an opportunity. If we go 2 down, heads seem to drop. The City game was worse because we took the lead. Zelen put us ahead 13 minutes. Just got it here. And then we conceded 3 in 10 minutes. Hemp, White and Weir. And when you're supposed to come back from that, our problem, I think it was Steve who's just said it here, is that we always do it towards the end. We make it difficult for ourselves. West Ham, Spurs, Everton, all of those, well, the Everton one, no, but Spurs and West Ham, right at the death. And, they've sort of done to us what we do to other teams, that going right to the end and scoring the goal. But absolutely he's right. To be still in contention with a top 3 spot is fantastic. And to be quite honest with you, we've spoken about Easter and the best comeback. We might be putting Chelsea as Armageddon at this rate.
If I could just have mine on it as well, I agree. I think this season, just because of the enormous task of being at Old Trafford, knowing that we had to win in front of the crowd, and go 1-0 down, I think that was mine this season. But I think overall, it would have to be City when Tobin Heath scored last season for us, and she scored 2 amazing goals in that one game. There's a thunderbolt of a strike, and then another one where she kissed the badge as well. And I think that was just amazing to see. And I think at that time as well, I was kind of hoping that Tobin Heath was going to stay along with Kristen Frith. And I think that had everything, especially with it being a derby, meant so much as well, because both teams were still fighting at that point for something, and we didn't want to get one on one. So I think for me, that was probably my best comeback there. That was really good to see.
I think some of our best comebacks are still yet to come, John. Diane Caldwell, Millie Turner, Eva Manuel. Some of our best comebacks are just around the corner.
Saved that one.
So Eve could be responsible for our best comeback this season, a late goal at City.
True. That's a good point. You've got them all coming out at the moment, haven't you? It's all coming out now. Ellie, when you think of good Man United women comebacks, do any come to mind?
Mine's the Everton one at Old Trafford, because when that first goal went in, I thought, oh no, we can't lose this. Not in front of that many fans. We cannot do this. Cannot lose this at Old Trafford. No way. So when it first went in, literally, I was just stood there like, please. I even went quiet for like 5 minutes. I was like, oh, please don't. Please do not. So we were just sloppy that first 10 minutes, I think. But I think it's because of the surroundings and how many people were there. And then we came straight back, which was good. Was it? And then one of them, there was the goal that didn't go in, or I think there was it offside?
I think it was that game, wasn't it? Yeah, because we should have. Yeah, because
was it? Was it Martha?
Yeah, it was that game. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
The line.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest comeback. I think Old Trafford. Literally, I was just when that first goal went in, it's like no, can't lose there. Come on, girls, keep going. Come on.
I think
that's the biggest comeback.
I do think we've shown a lot of character this season. Something that doesn't get spoken about enough is the fact that we haven't lost a league game outside of the top 3 teams this season, whereas last season and the season before that in the WSL, we have slipped up against some of the weaker teams. You can understand losing to Arsenal or Chelsea City, but to lose against a Brighton or something like that, if that had happened this season, and there's still a couple of games to go. I understand that, but I think that's something that we kind of take for granted a little bit. Arsenal lost to Birmingham this season. I think we haven't lost to a club that we should have beaten. We've had a couple of draws, hence why we're in this top 3 race and we haven't clinched it. I completely get that. But sometimes you do have to
They
come
also
back.
got back. So City only beat Birmingham 3-2, didn't they?
Yeah, that was on the return match. Yeah, so that was struggling as well. So yeah, absolutely right. Yeah. So sometimes you got to come back just like in the actual game itself, like not coming back from like 1-0 down or something, but actually coming back from like being under pressure or mentally where you think to yourself, oh, we should be 2-0 up here already, but we're not. But still coming back and getting some points on the board. So coming back from like 1-0 down to get a draw. That's not always a bad thing, is it? Barry, I'll bring you in on this. I mean, the fan base at one point were really getting frustrated by the amount of draws that we were getting. I think we had like maybe 4 on the trot if you include the Durham game. But sometimes you just got to see a draw as a positive as well, haven't you? Because we showed last season we were losing these games.
Yeah, we did. I mean, they were very difficult. The draws you're talking about, City, Durham, Spurs, and then Everton. And then we turned that around by coming back against Man City for that one that I mentioned in the Conti Cup and getting the win there. So I think it's really difficult in today's day and age because, I mean, I suppose it's what this channel is built on, but opinions. There's just so many of them. And everybody, of course, believes their opinion is the answer and the holy grail, and that's where it becomes a bit tricky. But I think for me, I think my opinion is that not losing is vital sometimes. I do think that you look at that Spurs one, there's such a thing as a good draw and a bad draw, and I do think for Spurs that was a good draw, and for us that was a bad draw. It was 2 points dropped for us. There's no getting away from that. But equally, there can be a good draw as well. I think Everton was a good draw because, they had plenty of time to come back and they didn't. Settled. Arsenal away was a good draw. Yes, it was their only real chance that they had in that second half. But other than that, we defended and played really well for that game. So Camaria saved. That was really good. But other than that, it was, a good point for us against Arsenal because they are a very good side. So, seriously, I think we've got lots of comebacks coming on, and I think the next 2 big comebacks that we've got to look for are the international girls. They're going to come back and they're going to help us get the hatful of goals that we need against Aston Villa, and also against West Ham. And then I'm also going to predict a comeback for Sina Brun to get her first hat-trick against Chelsea. How about that? That'd be a good comeback, wouldn't it?
It would be, absolutely, yeah. Sorry, Barry, I was breaking up a little bit there. So my Wi-Fi...
L2's going to come back and bang in a few down the end of the season.
That would be nice.
That would be a good comeback, and we've said it on the show, haven't we? I think that would be a great way for her to top off her season and kind of cement that player of the season. She's going to be up against it with Russo, I'm sure, but... watch Connor's Friday Night Fan Forum this Friday, and he can kind of show you how we're going to choose our player of the season and how we're going to do it, and involve you guys as well. I am going to shoot off because I'm worried that my Wi-Fi is going dodgy and that I end up cutting off completely. So I am going to shoot off. But Ellie, thank you for being on the show today.
No problem.
And I'll see you Sunday at Banksy Stadium, Villa versus United. Looking forward to that one. John, Barry, are you both going to that game as well?
Yes, I am, John.
Yeah.
I told you I bought a ticket.
You did. Oh, I need to get mine. I'm waiting for Connor. I need to sort that out. Flipping out. Okay, yeah, we need to sort that out. Oh dear me, I'll have to bite myself then. Okay, then.
Reminders, John.
We've got a great show tonight. Really enjoyed that one. Thank you to everyone in the comments, and we shall see you again soon.